less store, more ball, fewer infractions. This begins in 2020. The future is near. More access, more everyone, more everything.
May 1st, 2019, show number 11.
This is history begun. This is the XFL.
What is up, my friends? Welcome to another edition of the XFL Weekend Review. I am your host, The Mark, and on this week's show, the XFL team names announcement time frame. We know kind of when the team names will come out. I know you're anxious to hear about that. The XFL minor league team. Oliver Luck talks Colin Kaepernick and Johnny Manziel. That brings up a big controversy. People all start talking about. Plus the NFL draft and so much more. So how do you get in touch with the show? You email podcast@xflnewshub.com with your MP3 or thoughts, or you use the Twitter, just use the hashtag XFLWIR. Cutoff time is 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. Remember to leave us a review on iTunes. We really appreciate it, and we'll read it on the show. We want to spread the word out. So for this question of the week, we have what non-drafted NFL player would make a great XFL player. We have some interesting reaction to that. Plus the question for next week is, who is your XFL team and where are you from? I want to know next week, what's your team? If you're Dallas, I want to know, do you live in Texas or do you live in Omaha or do you live in Massachusetts? If your XFL team is New York, are you Delaware, Pennsylvania, you're DC? I want to know who's your XFL team and where you're from. I think that'll be real interesting to find out. Plus, we got your tweets, emails, tweets of the week, emails, phone calls, and so much more. So without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. Brian Stull of the Brian Stull Show on WGNU in St. Louis was at the Jonathan Hayes press conference on April 18th. He had a chance to talk with new head coach Jonathan Hayes and XFL commissioner and CEO Oliver Luck about the new XFL. Local players were at this press conference, including Rams Will Witherspoon, Tommy Polly, and Grant Williams, among others. Maybe they were trying to get in a job with the XFL or with the new head coach Jonathan Hayes. But some interesting notes, some good questions finally from some people about the XFL and some things that Jonathan Hayes said. He said tickets will be cheaper than NFL. No question about that. The XFL pace will be fast pace. St. Louis is a great sports town, and he's excited. We've heard that over and over again. His staff will not necessarily be from the St. Louis Rams, but have been with NFL teams. He gave no names he can't say yet, so he's got guys ready to hire for his staff. We just haven't heard that yet. He's excited about the new rules being talked about. He said one which was interesting. He said workman's comp and support staff in the wrong places hurt the AAF. So if you listen to the interview, and we have a link to it on XFL News Hub, it's definitely a good interview and it's worth taking a listen to, because he actually, out of all the people, asked some pretty interesting questions. Now, Jonathan Hayes' issue is almost like certain people in places were getting all the money and those who should have been getting the money didn't. And it just sounds like, especially you would think that they would learn their lesson from the old XFL, Charlie Ebersol, from your dads, but just did not work. And it was just off to a bad start from the beginning. And he also said seeing what went wrong with the AAF helps the XFL, which no doubt about that. Now, Oliver Luck dropped some nice little tidbits. Well, first, he said all 43 games will be on broadcast across fully distributed cable and over-the-air free television. We know this. He said for over-the-air free TV will be one of the alphabet networks. So that's ABC, CBS, NBC, or Fox. We at the XFL News Hub have been speculating it'll be Fox, but we have no insider information. Of course, he talked about the XFL deal. It is a long-term deal, not a one-year deal. So they are in it, and their partners are in it for the long haul, especially because they have Vince's money. Signing players will take place during the summer, but ramp up after NFL Cutdown Day in September. So really after the NFL draft and things to kind of trickle out, I think you'll see in the next couple weeks the XFL might be signing some players, which will be really exciting. The XFL draft will take place in October. We've had it that it'll be mid-October is when the XFL draft is. So we're excited about that. Two interesting things Oliver Luck said. He talked about Team 9. Now, what Team 9 is, it will be based in Dallas. They'll practice at the same facility as Bob Stoops' XFL team. It will consist of 40 players. They'll have their own set of coaches, and it'll be like a minor league system for the XFL to grab players, and G League team like they had in NFL Europe. So what will happen is you have all the rosters full of all the 8 XFL teams. But then you're going to have a pool of 40 players playing on this Team 9 team, and they're going to practice just like they were a team. They're just not going to play on Saturdays and Sundays, and players are going to go down, get injured, have these issues. They'll pull those players from the Team 9 onto the active roster. So they have a little minor league, a little pool of players. And I think that's another great idea to have for the league, because you're going to need to pull players from somewhere, and that they're going to be in game shape, ready to go. They're not going to be off the street playing Destiny, which, by the way, you could check out destinynewshub.com, one of our sister sites. So I thought that was really interesting and a great idea. Also, the thing that everybody wants to know, team names and logo announcement is about a month to 6 weeks away due to trademarks and legal process. So we are now in May. So you're talking May, probably June. Sometime in June, we will find out what the XFL team names are and what their logos are. Oliver Luck said in the interview, a lot of the legal trademark things have to be worked out. You think about a team name, if you want to call yourself the St. Louis Stallions, I mean, you have to trademark it. You have to make sure that there's the Twitter. You got to grab the Twitter, the XFL, somebody steals the XFL Stallions. Well, they already have those names. They do have all the Twitter handles of the cities. But there's the domain names. There's all sorts of stuff that comes along with the team names. And team names are really important. So fans, relax. It's not coming anytime soon. We'll get our coaches first. But June, I would say, is when you'll hear about team names and logos. So with the 2019 NFL draft completed, there's still a ton of undrafted players who could wind up on XFL rosters in 2020. Offensive line play and playmakers seem to be the position the new fast-paced and high-scoring XFL is looking to sign. Oliver Luck had said many times that besides quarterback play, offensive line play is critical to the success of the league. He felt one thing lacking in the AAF's games was the lack of good quality offensive linemen. Linemen are hard to find in the NFL and could be even harder to find in the XFL. So what we did was we found our top 10 undrafted players who could sign with the XFL. And we listed them out on XFL News Hub. Teron Prescott, Bew, Bretson Schwausel, Anthony Johnson, Anton Wesley, Stanley Morgan, Elijah Holyfield, Fred Johnson, Emmanuel Hall, wide receiver, Missouri, Nate Herbig, offensive guard, Stanford, and Jacoby Myers, wide receiver, NC State. Here's the funny thing. So we put this list out Monday. Pretty much by Tuesday, Teron Prescott signed with the Giants. Bew, Ben Schwausel, Detroit Lions. Anthony Johnson signed with Tampa Bay. Antoine Wesley signed with second America's team is the XFL DC team, but the second best team on all of the land is the Baltimore Ravens, your Baltimore Ravens. Stanley Morgan signed with the Bengals, Elijah Holyfield with the Carolina Panthers, Fred Johnson, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Emmanuel Hall, Chicago Bears, Nate Herbig signed with the Eagles, and Jacoby Myers signed with the New England Patriots. But now that these people are signed, we are going to track these guys, and it's going to be fun. So NFL Cutdown Day, as you know, is in September. So we're going to keep an eye out on our top 10 guys and see if they get signed, if they get cut, and if they sign with the XFL, if they're part of that new crop of talent that comes in. So we're going to keep it. These are our 10 guys, and they're all wide receivers. Prescott, Benson Schweitzel, Fred Johnson, Herbig are all offensive linemen. Johnson, Wesley, Morgan, Hall, Myers are all wide receivers, and Holyfield is a running back. I mean, we didn't put quarterbacks, we didn't put any of that other thing. But just kind of threw them out there. So these are the guys that it's going to be fun. Check out the XFL. We got a little write-up about each player. But we're going to track them come September, and we're going to follow their careers a little bit. So stay tuned to XFL News Hub as we hear more about our guys, our 10 undrafted guys who now got selected, but will they be in the XFL in 2020? Oliver Luck was on the Ken Carman show with Anthony Lima. to talk about the XFL and why spring football can work. Luck talked about what makes the XFL different from the AAF, what rules the league is working on, and if quarterbacks John Manziel and Colin Kaepernick are welcome in the XFL. A couple notes from the interview. Luck said it was a chance to work for a football league startup is what drew him out of the NCAA. Believes there is a market for spring football after the Super Bowl. He said, quote, spring is a quiet time in the sports world. Vince McMahon is the one and only person with the money, so there's no need in his job. There's no need to deal with multiple investors, and he can focus on the league, different from what the AAF had to deal with. Vince McMahon's capital gives the league time and money to get things in place. To have a successful league, QB talent is critical to the league, and they pay more for those players. All 32 teams in the NFL, only 32 teams in the NFL have 2 slots typically for quarterback, and he feels that there's a ton of talent out there that is not on NFL teams. Quarterbacks are the top of the food chain, clearly. He talks about the innovations the XFL is working on, about the 1, 2, and 3-point play and the different rules. We've been over that before. Vince McMahon wants a standalone league, not affiliated with the NFL. He has no interest in selling the league to the NFL. They are their own deal. We're not trying to partner with the NFL. We are a standalone league. And when they talk about being a developmental league for the NFL, that's silly because Oliver Luck is completely right. College football is a developmental league for the NFL. They don't need another one. Talks about broadcast partners, really like the XFL overtime rules. And this is the part that was interesting, that really made headlines, but really shouldn't have. And again, it comes back to people not listening. He said he was open to Johnny Manziel playing in the XFL as long as he fits the behavioral standards of the league and the coaches, and he feels like if he's good enough, and the XFL has no contact with him. When asked about Colin Kaepernick, he said he didn't know if he was in shape or not, and not sure he would be interested in playing the XFL based on the rumored salary requirements. We reported that Colin Kaepernick wanted $20 million to play in the XFL, allegedly, but he said he would be open to him as well. All of a sudden, Oliver Luck said it, and the media is like, the XFL commissioner and CEO Oliver Luck seems to be open for having Johnny Manziel in the league, but doesn't seem to be open to have Colin Kaepernick. If you listen to the interview, he has the same interest in both players, but Kaepernick probably wouldn't want to play in the XFL. You don't believe me? Listen to the clip now.
Oliver Luck with us on the show. I know that he's probably open to it. Are you open to John Manziel in your league?
Well, he's had an interesting career, needless to say. As long as he fits our profile and our sort of behavioral standards, and quite honestly, a bigger challenge, as long as our 8 head coaches think that he's one of the quarterbacks that can make us better. And we've got some guys that know quarterbacks fairly well, whether it's Bob Stoops or Pep Hamilton or others, Jim Zorn, an NFL quarterback himself, or so we're gonna rely heavily on our coaches to say, yeah, these are the guys that we think will make our league better. If Manziel is in that group, then I'm sure he might have an opportunity. But it really all depends on him, and we haven't had any contact with him.
All right. What about Colin Kaepernick?
I'd say ditto, quite honestly. I have no idea whether Colin's in shape or not, whether he wants to play. We're a league that has salary restrictions, and obviously that at least based on what people have said, might play a role in his desire to play. But I would just say ditto on that as well.
So you heard it now. You heard the clip. I can't tell you how many articles were posted about Oliver Luck doesn't seem to be open to Colin Kaepernick. I'm listening to the same thing. He was like ditto basically for both, but one probably doesn't have an interest because he wants $20 million. But he's still interested in having him. Like, what? This is the second time. Jeff Fisher thing was the other time. People not reading and listening. Open your ears. He's fine. You've heard it. Now you just heard the clip. He is open to having them both. And that would be huge for the XFL. I've been wondering where Bob Stoops is. Where has he been? I haven't really heard much about him, but he has been in the behind the scenes of the XFL. I'll give him credit. But Bob Stoops, he was the first coach named in the new Reimagined League. This was back in February. Since then, we have not heard much from him. That's until now. Chris Woods has just been named defensive coordinator for the XFL Dallas franchise under Bob Stoops. He is a former interim head coach and defensive coordinator at Texas State University. Before that, he was in charge of defensive quality control at the University of Oklahoma. Can I get that job? Can I be in charge of defensive quality control? Like really But I mean, you wonder these big programs, and we've seen these coaches come in, like have these weird titles. It was like Pep Hamilton was basically like the passing coordinator. Is that really necessary? Can't you just have one guy calling the plays? Does it make? I don't know. I've never sat on a coaching staff. I know, but some of these titles, I've seen some of these coaches come out. Hey, more power to you. But stay tuned to XFL News Hub for more coaches' announcements as they come in. That's it for the news this week. We'll get to your social media stuff and so much more right after this. Stay tuned. There is only one place that you can get all your XFL news. That is xflnewshub.com. We go all the way back from the beginning of time for the XFL all the way up to today's stuff, where you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. All those locations to get all your XFL news. We are your number one source of XFL football news from now all the way until February 2020 kickoff. So stick with xflnewshub.com for all your latest information. Follow us on all the social medias. That's xflnewshub.com. Remember it. Write it down. xflnewshub.com. All right, we are back onto the Twitters we got here. Coming from last week, we posted article about AAF co-founder Charlie Ebersol was reportedly paid over $14,000 days before the bankruptcy filing. MC Pod 88 said, "Of course he was!" Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. So much shade going around there. And I read Charlie Ebersol's comments on the folding. And again, it still doesn't make any sense. I'm calling BS. On the same article, Steve and a bunch of numbers. Unbelievable. What a piece of garbage. Agreed. Haynes SS the best. About last week's show, where we wanted to know some picks for LA and Houston, he said Rex Ryan. Would love to see Rex Ryan in the XFL. And finally, Todzilla_SR, legend of the Iron Fleet Express, at XFL News Hub. Being a Husker Football Nation fan, there are two guys that, if not drafted in the XFL or drafted, would do well in the XFL 2020. Devine Ozigabo and Tanner Farmer. Ozigabo is a running back with power and speed and good vision, and Farmer is versatile offensive line who has played both left, right guard, and center. At the hashtag XFLWIR, all right, legend of the Iron Fleet Express. We mark it, post it on our article about the undrafted players, because we're going to go back. There were people that posted a bunch of undrafted players in the comments. A couple people did. Post your players in the comments. Head over to XFL News Hub. Just type in 2009 NFL Draft. You'll find it. And put those names in there, because I want to track these guys. And I want to see if any of the XFL Nation, XFL, I don't know what to call you guys yet, gets it right and picks somebody who has got does something in the XFL. It'll be really cool. Lots of reaction to the luck on Colin Kaepernick and Johnny Manziel on the XFL show. I mean, lots. Anthony says, I see Vince loves controversy and hope, so just might be an angle. We'll see. Dean says, if Kaepernick plays in the XFL, I wouldn't watch football at all. Really? John, Kaepernick was the reason you were reborn. You'll be DOA if hire him. Steven says their 15 minutes are up. Time to move on from both clowns. Kaepernick hasn't played in a long time. That's my thing. I don't, whatever controversy, blah, 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 blah. Dude hasn't played in a couple years. Tino, come on, not effing Kaepernick. David, with Vince's view from the anthem, I seriously doubt the bigot POS Capper bleep will ever see an XFL tryout. Andy, both need not to be involved. The XFL needs younger, more hungry talent. Michael says, if I'm out, if either one of these bleep clowns play, this is why I don't watch the NFL anymore. High-paid thugs always in trouble or protesting. We pay to watch you play, not watch you on the media for BS. I think, I'm telling you, Bob Stoops, Johnny Manziel, and Dallas, you have got some must-see TV and people will watch. No doubt about that. On to the Instagram. We asked the question, threw it out there, what non-drafted NFL player would make a great XFL player? We got them on the Twitters. Javon_Muhammad says, Javon Muhammad, linebacker, 225, McMurray College. All right, you had it. Javon Muhammad thinks just coincidence that there's another Javon Muhammad should be in the XFL. And ROKK_ says me. So these guys want a shot. You can go to XFL.com and there's information about signing up for the league and getting a part of the draft. There's going to be workouts, and we're going to cover all that fun stuff for you on XFL News Hub. Remember, the question for next week, I want to know all wrestling or XFL, we got to call something, like everybody does Nation. XFL Hubbies. No, that doesn't work. XFL Newsy Ruse. I don't know. Come up with something. We need a nickname for the XFL Army or XFL News Hub something. You guys need a nickname. Message me. Podcast at xflnewshub.com. Question of the week. I want to know, who is your XFL team and where are you from? Who is your team and where are you from? This way we get to know. We can figure all this out. It'll be good stuff. If you want to be part of the show, email podcast at XFL News Hub. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just look up XFL News Hub. We got some new videos up there. And leave us a review on iTunes or read it on the show. And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Stitcher. And I think we're on in TuneIn as well. I believe we are on in TuneIn as well. Also, stay tuned for this week. Check out not only... Hopefully, we should be getting some coaches. It's a real dead week in football right now as far as news goes. People are recovering from the draft. I have an article coming out this week that poses the question, and I think it's going to be real interesting. I'd love to get your response. Would Tyler Murray be better off foregoing the NFL draft, going to play in the XFL for a year, and then taking his services to the NFL? I break it down in big detail. That will be this week on xflnewshub.com. Check us out there. Thanks for listening. Mahalo to all my friends out there. God bless, and I will see you all later.